Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video we're taking a look at the SCT Performance X4 SF4 Power Flash Tuner for 2021 and newer 5-liter F-150s. If you want to maximize your Coyote's power output for a really good price, SCT has got exactly what you need right here. With preloaded tunes plus the flexibility to upload custom tunes and all the data logging that can be done here, this little tuner is going to give you everything you need and then some for about the best price in the segment. Diving right in on numbers here, we tested our 2021 F-150 on our in-house dyno. Now our truck runs on 93 octane fuel, and we did our dyno runs in 4th gear so we could rev the engine all the way out and get a clean pull due to the speed limiter on our dyno roller. In stock form, we saw 348 horsepower at 6,900 RPM with 342 pound-feet of torque at 4,500 RPMs. By comparison, after the tune from SCT, our truck made 354 horsepower at 6,900 RPM with 357 pound-feet of torque at 4,300 RPM, making for peak gains of 6 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque. Not bad on a completely stock truck. But those numbers don't tell you everything. If you look at our graph here, we saw good under the curve numbers as well, with as much as 23 horsepower around 3,400 RPM and about 15 pound-feet of torque from just under that 3,400 RPM mark all the way up to about 4,500 RPM. So in looking at those results, we can see that while power and torque leveled out at the top end, this tune made a pretty significant difference in the low end of the rev range, which on a truck is a great place to see gains. It's going to give you more power and torque off the line, which is especially important for towing and hauling, and you'll definitely appreciate it driving around town as well. Now the Coyote V8 already does great up in the higher revs, but this makes for a much more evenly distributed power and torque curve, and it flattens it out a bit more versus stock. It's not bad for a preloaded tune on an otherwise stock vehicle. Now the SCT X4 SF4 comes again with a tune preloaded for you, though you can make some adjustments for things such as fuel octane with that preloaded tune. But that means that outside of maybe updating the unit software, which is easily done using the provided cable, this is ready to go right out of the box. Now there is one tune included, like I mentioned, but this unit also has the big benefit of supporting custom tunes as well. So if you continue to make upgrades later on down the line, like an exhaust, an intake, maybe even a supercharger, you've got the ability to get more tunes written to accommodate for those modifications. But the ability to unlock more power isn't the only thing that this little tuner is packing. Now in addition to those tunes, you have the ability to read and clear diagnostic trouble codes should you get a pesky check engine light. This also allows you to make changes to the truck to compensate for larger wheels and tires or a different rear end gear ratio, so you can have your speedometer and odometer reading correctly should you make those modifications as well. You can also adjust your tire pressure monitoring system so you can change the alert if you want to lower the pressure where that goes off at. Say you're going to do off-roading and you don't want to have to keep seeing that light on the dashboard or getting an alert, you can change that as well. You also have the option to do a crank relearn procedure if your engine is running a bit off, and reset the Keep Alive Memory or KAM, which can be helpful if you need your truck's computer to reset itself after, say, a bad tank of gas or fixing a vacuum leak. But there's still one more big thing that this can do. You also have the ability to show live vehicle data should you want to display this up on your dashboard. So you can monitor a ton of different engine parameters. You can swap out different readouts depending on what you want to see. This also supports data logging, so it can save that data from your drives or dyno runs, which can be really helpful for your tuner if you want to take advantage of that custom tune option later on down the line. Now, talking about construction with things like these tuners is always a bit difficult just because it's not something that's going to directly affect the way that the truck drives depending on how it's made. But I like talking about these, and I really do like the X4 because it's a very compact unit and it features a full color 2.75-inch display. You can also display this in either portrait or landscape mode. And you've got this nice easy 5-button interface as well. It's very easy to navigate, only takes a minute or two to figure it out. And I'm a big fan of physical buttons, especially on something small like this. Just makes it easy to operate should you need to do it without looking. It also comes with all of the cables that you need included, even a USB cable to update it with your computer. And you've got your OBD2 cable, plus your power pack and your connector for the ECU, which we'll show you when we get under the hood of the truck. Pricing comes in at about $650, which for all you get here, especially the ability to data log, is a really good price. Truly, this is all you need in a tuner. Now, you could spend a lot more money, get a bigger monitor, you can get some custom tunes, but if you want something that's really easy and ready to go right out of the box and gives you plenty of flexibility plus some more power and torque, this is a great way to get it without spending a whole heck of a lot of money. Installation is going to get a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter and should take you about 30 minutes to get this plugged in and get the tune loaded up onto your truck. Now, there are a couple of things that you have to do here. It's a little bit different than just plugging it into an OBD2 port, but it's really overall pretty simple. You're probably going to spend more time playing around with different settings and adjustments than actually getting it plugged in and getting the tune loaded. So with that, let's hop on over to the truck and we'll show you how to get this one done. All right, now it's time to install the X4 SF4 Power Flash Tuner on our 21 F-150 here. Now you'll notice I'm under the hood and we've got the hood propped up because we actually have to do the install for this underneath the hood. We're gonna pull a couple of connections off of the main ECU here and connect some stuff up. So make sure you've got your tuner, you've got the little power module with the SCT logo on it, you've got this big connector here that's gonna go into it, power cable, and your OBD2 cable. So we're gonna wanna have all of those handy. We're gonna put all this together, get it hooked up, and then we'll flash the truck from right here. So let's get into it. So our first step here is to unclip all these 3 connectors from our ECU. So we're gonna go in order from the passenger side fender in towards the center of the engine. Now these are actually pretty easy, even though they look daunting. There's a little clip here, so we're just gonna push down on that. You'll feel it release, and you should be able to move these big gray paddles right on up, and they will work themselves loose. You have to force this, go back, start over. They should come off pretty easily. So we'll pull that one, and then we'll repeat the same process for this one here. This one should come even easier. Push that little center tab, pull it out. The hardest part here is keeping the other one out of the way while you do this. And that'll come loose. Pull it out, and then same thing. The clip for this one is on the other side, so we'll just push that, little paddle, and then it's out. And again, we're just gonna make sure these are out of the way because we're going back right here next. So now we can start installing. We're gonna take this cable right here with the big connector that looks like the ones we just took off, and this cable on the end of it. This is all one. We're gonna set that aside and we're gonna go right here. So make sure the gray paddle is facing toward the passenger side fender. I'm just gonna set that into place. You should feel it seat itself. And just pull down on that paddle. There it goes. And should lock into place. If you have to force it, don't. That's gonna break it. It should go nice and easy. Once that's done, we'll come over here and we'll connect up the rest of this. All right, next we're gonna plug in our little box here with the SCT logo on it. Now this is only gonna go one way. So plug that in, make sure it's seated nice, and then using these hand screws here, we're just gonna tighten it up. You don't have to get too crazy with this. Just tighten it up. Make sure it's nice and even and tight, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, next we're gonna connect up our power cable. So taking this end, we're gonna plug it in to the box right here, and then we've got positive and the negative. We're gonna connect these right up to our battery. So just go clamp it right on top there. Make sure that's nice and sturdy. We don't want to lose power in the middle of tuning. And the same thing over here on the positive side. And making sure they're nice and tight. Now we do have another power cable on here to make sure our battery stays connected. We've got a battery tender connected here. You don't have to do that. I do recommend it if you can though, just to make sure that your battery doesn't lose power. All right, we got one more cable to plug in and then we're gonna be able to start tuning the truck. Next, we're gonna take our OBD2 cable and we're gonna plug it into the other side of the box right here. That should just click right in nice and easily. Then we'll take the other end, looks like an HDMI cable, and we're gonna plug that into the top of our tuner. And then it should power up, which means we can go ahead and start tuning. Now that we've got everything plugged in and our unit is powered on, we can go ahead and load the tune onto the vehicle. So we'll cover some of these other things after we do the tuning section because we're gonna access them from inside of the truck. But for right now, what we're interested in is programming the vehicle. So we'll go ahead and select that. You'll get a street use notice here. You're just gonna have to hit continue. And it'll take a moment to process. Now it is worth noting too that before we did this, I did plug this into the computer as this unit does not update via Wi-Fi. So I just made sure that it was updated even though it was brand new in the box. You should make sure you do that as well, just to make sure everything is right and you've got all the necessary firmware and hardware updates on this. All right, now we've gotten to the selection menu. You're gonna see this is our preloaded tune here for the 5-liter F-150. That's what our truck is, so we're gonna go ahead and select that, which will take us to the next screen, which will give us some options. Okay, if you've done this before, you may get this message. We're just gonna hit next and go through. And this is the menu that we're talking about here. So there's a couple of options that you can select right out of the gate when you do the tune. The first, and obviously the most important here, is the fuel octane rating. So make sure you're tuning this for the correct octane that you are using. Our truck runs 93, so we're gonna make sure that we have 93 selected. And then we can go down and select some of the others. Now, we're not gonna change any of these other ones just because we're leaving the truck as is, but you can go through and do these yourself too. If you want to disable the auto stop start feature, you can do that right here. We're gonna leave ours enabled. You can set your speed limiter if you want to do that. Ours is already off, we're gonna leave it at that. Your rev limit in neutral, this one is set to 5,000 RPM. I don't really see any reason to crank it up any higher, but if you want to do that, again, you can do that right here. And then your idle speed in neutral, this is your warm idle speed, is set to 600 RPM. So make sure you're happy with those. Once you're ready, you can press the right arrow, and that's gonna bring you over to the approve section. And we'll hit approve. Again, make sure that everything looks right for you here. Hit continue. And now we've started the process. Now this is gonna take a little while because it is gonna save your stock tune. So this process is gonna take a bit. Make sure you keep an eye on things. It'll take a few minutes. And it's very important as well that you don't touch anything once you've started this. Again, don't disconnect it from power, don't start the truck, don't open the doors, don't do anything, just let it do its thing. And then it will write the tunes for you. So it's gonna save the stock data right now, and then in a little bit, it'll start loading the new tune. All right, now our stock tune is saved, so this is gonna go through a couple more screens. You might hear some things clicking, some relays and modules underneath the hood. Don't worry about that, all perfectly normal. Again, just make sure you're not touching anything, leaving it all alone as the module does its thing. So now it's going through and building the tune for us, applying those changes that we made earlier. This might take a little bit of time. Usually this section of it is faster than saving the stock tune. So once you've gotten past that, it should move pretty quickly. All right, now we get to the most exciting part, writing the tune to the vehicle. So even though this looks exactly like the rest of it, this is gonna move a little bit faster. And then once we're done this, we've got the truck tuned and ready to go. All right, and that completes the tuning. So we can just go ahead and hit done, and our truck is now tuned. Now, while we're here, before we take this off, I do want to show you one more thing. If you do need to set the truck back to stock, it's a very easy process to do. You're just gonna go right back into Program Vehicle, and right here under your street use notice, you can just scroll right over and hit Return to Stock, and then go through that whole process right there. So it'll ask you to continue, ask you if you want to do that. We're just going to exit for right now. We're going to take this off and run it on the dyno, but that's how you get it back to stock. So we'll go ahead and hit exit, and we'll take this off, run the truck, and see what it makes. So unhooking this is basically the exact opposite of hooking it up. We don't need to disconnect all of this stuff. I'm just going to pull the power cables off right here, cover that back up, and then we're going to go right back to our ECU here. And this works exactly the same as those three that we took off earlier. So you're just gonna press the locking tab, pull the big gray tab up, and that should shimmy right off. We'll set all that aside because we're gonna take our tuner into the truck and go through some of the other stuff as well. In the meantime though, right here, we're gonna take these three connectors and we're gonna plug them back in. We're gonna go in the exact opposite direction. So starting towards the middle here, you can get that seated, clip it down, and the same thing for this central one. And this last one right here. There we go, make sure they're nice and tight. And we'll take our unit, hop in the truck, and show you some of the other features. All right, now we are inside the truck, so we're gonna take our Power Flash tuner here, left it plugged in from underneath the hood. We're gonna take the other end of the OBD2 cable, and we're gonna just plug that in right here underneath the dashboard, and then this will power right on up. Okay, now that we've got this plugged in, we can go through some of the other features of the SCT X4 SF4. Now, obviously the program vehicle section for this truck in particular, for these 21 up F-150s, you're gonna have to do that under the hood, so we're not gonna touch that. However, scrolling down, next we have gauges and data log. So if you select that, it's gonna ask you to turn the ignition on. We've got ours on already. You can just hit continue. This will take a second. And this is going to bring us to a screen where we can see a bunch of different parameters that the engine computer monitors. Now this has brought us to a screen. You can notice that both of these are the same. But if we go over here, press the over button, you can scroll down and select gauge layout. And you can scroll through these. Now I'm going to pull up this one so you can see all the different parameters. You also have the option to put this in landscape format. So now, once we're here, if you press the down arrow, you can scroll through these different things and you can select different gauges and different readouts. So here in the item, you can select that and it'll give you all kinds of different things. So you have things like your engine coolant temp, intake cam positioning, your variable valve timing, intake and exhaust, NOx sensor. We'll select that one, press over, hit approve, and you see that shows up right there. Again, you can scroll through and pick all these different ones. And there's all kinds of different parameters that you can monitor. Torque converter slip, fuel trim, your map sensor if you want to read that, your spark advance, intake, air temp, all these different things. Now this is really helpful if you are especially getting custom tunes written, because if you go back and press that center button, you'll see a little record showing up here. So if you're doing a drive, if you're doing a dyno run or anything like that, you can record all these different parameters, send it to your tuner, they can read through it, and they can write you a tune based on what they're seeing there. If you want to stop the recording, just hit that center button again. To go back, we'll just press back here, and then to go get out of this screen, you can hit stop data log. Now, you can also reset your min and max, you can select and look at different data log files, and you can also start recording from here. So we're going to stop, and this will take us back to the main menu, which brings us down to vehicle functions. So selecting that, this is where you can read and clear diagnostic trouble codes. So select read. Again, it'll ask you to turn the ignition on. We've already left our trucks on, so we'll hit continue. And we'll see if any codes pop up. Good news here, no codes found. So we can turn the key off or we can hit exit, and that'll bring us back. You can also clear diagnostic trouble codes here. So if you want to do that, if you do happen to have a check engine light, you can clear them, drive the truck, see if anything comes back. And it'll cycle through just like that for you. And we can hit exit, come back to the menu. Now we can go down to the special functions menu too. Again, it'll ask you to turn the key on. And this is where we can change a couple of different things. So first and foremost, if you are putting larger wheels and tires on your truck or re-gearing the rear axle, going in here will allow you to change it. Now, our truck is on stock size tires despite being on aftermarket wheels, so we're going to skip that. Our stock axle ratio is 373:1. We're not changing that either, but we can skip it. If you want to change it, you can go in here and type it right back in. Well, we're going to have to put ours in, so make sure you remember it. Putting in 373. I'll ask you to turn the key off. Press continue. All right, ask you to turn the key back on. Continue. You're just going to follow the prompts here for these things. All right. We'll turn our ignition back on. You've got a couple of other options here as well. So if you want to change your tire pressure monitoring system, you can do that as well. Again, ours is set to stock. We're going to leave that right there. Same for the rear. You also have your keep alive memory reset, or that CAM reset. So what this does basically is give the engine computer some power so that it doesn't lose all of its settings should your battery die. If you need to reset, kind of set everything back to factory settings, you can do that as well. And the crank alert is sort of the same thing. This is just going to be for the engine. If you mess with anything, if you're adding modifications and the truck seems to be running a little rough, you can hit that crank relearn. It's going to set everything back to stock. it'll kind of start itself over and relearn everything from there. Again, we're not going to change anything else here, so we're going to go and exit back to the main menu. And then down here you have a couple of other things. Vehicle info is just going to tell you information about the specific truck. They'll have your VIN and a couple of other things in there. What your TPMS is set to, ECU strategies, things like that. Again, these things are important if you are getting a custom tune written for your vehicle. The tuners are likely going to want that information. So we'll exit. Device info, this is just going to tell you things about the device itself. And then device settings down here, you can change a bunch of things in the device itself. Your display brightness, orientation if you want to change it to landscape, you can change the colors, light sensors. All this stuff is super helpful too if you want to mount this up on the dash and use it for real-time data monitoring like we were talking about earlier. There is a windshield mount that is sold separately if you want to do that. Startup function, your demo mode, if you want to touch that, you really shouldn't. And if you need to reset anything back to factory specs, that'll most likely be an issue only if there's a problem and SCT needs to help you out with it. So we'll hit exit, come back to the main menu, and that's pretty much it. That's going to wrap it up here for our review, install, and dyno test of the SCT Performance X4 SF4 Power Flash Tuner, fitting 2021 and newer 5-liter F-150s. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things F-150, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.